The Wild Robot. That is the movie nobody expected to be as good as it was. I am honestly floored at the quality of this film. I really had to talk about it because we live in an era where animated movies are a hit and miss. Obviously, this year has been kind of mixed. We obviously had Inside Out 2, which was amazing, and it was also commercially successful. I think that's going to be remembered as the best movie of the year, or at least one of the most memorable, especially with how popular it was. But I have to say that The Wild Robot is a close second because like I said before, I think we live in an era where animated movies are just catered to the lowest common denominator. Even though they're for kids, I feel like there just has been a massive decline in quality. Because we live in an era where kids have the attention span of a caffeinated squirrel. So we got your Despicable Me 4s and your Kung Fu Panda 4s and your Minecraft movie and now apparently a Skibidi Toilet movie. So it's been rough out there, and I love animation. I feel like animation is one of the most important mediums out there. So when I went to see The Wild Robot, I expected another DreamWorks movie, like kind of mid. Like, they haven't been as bad lately, but I feel like this movie just blew my expectations out of the water. I honestly love this from beginning to end. And one of the reasons I love The Wild Robot so much is just, I feel like the movie was made with passion. And that is something that just movies in general, but especially animated movies, I feel like when you have a vision and you're like, oh, I want to make this movie and I want to make it good, I want to infuse it with a lot of the feelings that make us human and just, yeah, nourish our souls. You produce something that is so great that it's beautiful. And this is a movie that has everything. It has a great story, it has humor, great jokes, and especially some really dark ones that I was like, hey, is this a movie for children? But it's just so good in the beginning, and it just builds up on the last thing and the last thing and the last thing. And it builds on so many things that you didn't expect from the beginning of the movie. And at the end of the journey, you're just attached to all of these characters, these like talking animals, well, talking from the perspective of the robot, that each one has their own personality, their own kind of thing that they adapted into the movie. I feel like this movie hit all the marks in what makes a great animated film. So the story is about a robot who arrives at an island, and it is in a far future similar to WALL-E in a way, where humanity has progressed to where robots taking care of everybody, which is kind of like that, yeah, similar to WALL-E. And these robots are produced to serve humans, and so Roz arrives to this island. She wants to understand what she is doing there, so she decides to just go along with her programming and help out animals. And this is the central theme of The Wild Robot. I feel like the main focus of the movie is, do you follow your like innate programming, what society expects out of you? This is like the feeling that I had from the movie. I feel like it's kind of a metaphor, and especially later on in the movie, you'll know why, of doing what you want and what feels right in your heart versus what you're programmed to do, quote unquote, or what society expects of you. So I feel like the movie does tackle that theme, and especially attached to the theme of motherhood, which is the next big thing that we're going to talk about. So Roz goes around the island meeting different animals, and there's a lot of funny sequences in the beginning, but everything changes the moment that she finds an egg after she accidentally destroys the family of swans that were laying eggs in the nest. And that's when suddenly she decides to take care of this lone egg. And when the egg hatches, she doesn't know what to do with the little baby goose. So the story progresses. She meets this fox, Fink, who helps her along the way. And Fink obviously has motivations of his own. Obviously, he wants to eat the goose. And that's another theme in the movie, is the nature versus nurture thing. So in the beginning, all the animals are wild. They just like go and eat each other. Predators eat prey. And over the course of the movie, as Roz starts learning from the animals also learn from Roz, which I thought was very beautiful, and it's attached to that theme. And obviously these are like cartoon animals, obviously they don't act that way in nature, but it was interesting to see how our human insecurities and fears and behaviors got transported to these animals, because obviously it's an animated movie, you're not supposed to take it that seriously. So let's go back to the baby goose. So he grows up and Roz decides to name him Brightbill. That's something that she starts learning too, is how human beings act. For example, we are not as, like by the numbers as robots are. And that leads to the next theme of The Wild Robot, is how do we define our humanity? Is it just being spontaneous? Is it doing things just for the pleasure of it instead of reaching some goal? For example, you might have a couple of goals, and a machine has goals too. You can program a machine to do certain things, but that machine will achieve those goals along the way. For example, if you tell ChatGPT, hey, ChatGPT, give me a complete calculation with all these numbers, all this data, it's just going to do it straight away. It's not going to take any detours. It's not going to play along with the numbers. It's not going to go take a lunch break. But human beings are not like that. Like, we like to play with things. We like to improvise. We like to do things for the sake of it. For example, with art, I feel like art is another thing that human beings love to do just for the sake, and it is something that fills our souls. So that is something that AI can't really replicate right now, or might never replicate. And that leads to a very interesting discussion. Also, by the way, if you want to see more videos about me talking about AI, about the implications of artificial intelligence, I have a whole playlist that I'm going to link in the description. But this is the feeling that I had from Ross. I feel like one of the main focuses of the story is how Ross starts to learn how humans work and how we improvise everything. And I feel like this is also portrayed throughout the animals. Like, even though if they're animals, they have those qualities, especially Fink, who starts to teach her, if, for example, how to improvise in order to give the goose a name, which becomes Brightbill because of the bright bill it has on the face. We'll come back to the theme later, but first let's talk about Brightbill. I feel like his growth along the movie was really well done. It was very well written, and it made me tear up a little, especially the way that he develops confidence. Because this is a goose that has a strange mutation that makes him smaller compared to the other geese, and they bully him, they make fun of him, and this also has a lot of like parallels to the story of the Ugly Duckling. And because at the end, he saves them from a very dark ending that they were going to face. But Brightbill decides to, put his bravery there on display, save the geese, and that leads to a very good outcome, which he becomes loved by all of them. But that theme of just overcoming obstacles, despite your flaws, despite your insecurities, and just overcoming everything despite everything, is a very, very good message that I feel like is very important for kids. And that's also one of the reasons that I loved the Wild Robot, because including these themes are very important, especially in an age where most animated movies are just, for fun, like not this, but the last movie, Kung Fu Panda 4 and Despicable Me 4, they were just made for money and fun. And especially, we need more movies like this one that have more profound themes. And the final thing I want to comment about Brightbill is just the relationship he has with Ross is absolutely beautiful. I feel like that relationship of mother and son, despite being a robot, and these two characters having nothing in common when they meet, just developing naturally, is something that just, like I said before, brought a lot of tears to my eyes. The way that she comes back for him, despite her duty to go back to the city of, the humans, I feel like it was very beautiful. And that also relates to the theme that I want to come back to, which is Ross developing feelings. So when Ross starts developing these feelings for Brightbill, she realizes that it goes against her programming. And it leads to very existential questions and very profound moments of self-reflection that she goes through despite being a robot. She asks herself, like, what am I supposed to do in this world? Why do I feel such a big responsibility to take care of this small goose? Because I was programmed to do something. This is not in my programming. Why am I being this way? And along the way, she meets another stranded robot who is basically programmed from zero. So she compares herself to him, and that's when everything starts like clicking into place. And she realizes like, hey, despite this not being in my, original programming, it's something that I have to do. It is what's right. Like, there's a lot of ethical implications in there, and that's something that I really enjoyed from these moments between Ross and Brightbill. So the movie wraps itself in a very nice way. Like I said before, I really, really enjoyed The Wild Robot. I feel like it has a lot of amazing lessons. And yeah, there's a lot to think about here. I feel like it's such a great movie. I highly recommend it. As a final score, I'm going to give it an 85 out of 100. And yeah, I really love all the themes. I love the way that it contrasts with other things and, what makes you human, and how it uses these colorful characters to portray it. Also, as a final point, I really enjoyed the final scene where they are in the winter and she has to save them, and she goes and sacrifices herself for others. So yeah, there's also that big theme of self-sacrifice. But yeah, those are all my thoughts on The Wild Robot. Really, really like this movie. And yeah, go see it if you haven't. So that's everything for today. Have a great day. See ya.